This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
Sue saw that Bill could not keep a roommate, that they moved in and out rapidly, but she didn't think much of it. There was very little about him that concerned her. When they were alone, they got along fine, and she didn't find his tendency to dominate conversations a deterrent to their relationship. He might be kind of bossy, and even arrogant sometimes, but to her, he was interesting, and he knew so much about many things. She certainly didn't see him then as boorish and oblivious to other people's reactions. Sue felt sorry for Bill when his mother humiliated him in front of other students in his dorm. She would get drunk and call him from California, where she was living then, Sue recalled. It bothered him so much, he got ulcers from the stress. I remember once how angry he was when his mother couldn't get him on the phone and she called the resident advisor in his dorm. He was so embarrassed to think of how she must have sounded, knowing that she only called when she had been drinking. Bill Jensen was struggling to make a better life for himself, one in which he could leave his birth family behind. He felt no particular allegiance to his mother. He had no reason to. She hadn't fought to keep him when he was 5, and the state's social workers moved in and took him away to a foster home, and she hadn't been very nice to him when Bill lived with her and a stepfather in California when he was in junior high. Beyond his adopted father, Chuck, Bill had never had any stable roots that would make him feel grounded in the world. Sue understood that, and tried to reassure him that he was a special person, successful and smart, and that he had a great future ahead of him. She loved him, and vowed to be the kind of wife who would help him find a happy life. The only disturbing experience Sue had with Bill in college was at his 19th birthday party. They had gone out with some friends, and both of them had a little too much to drink. Although she couldn't even remember what they argued about, it was serious enough for him to put his hands on her in anger, and she was left with black and purple marks where he'd grabbed her arms. The fracas at Bill's birthday celebration had escalated to a point where somebody called the police, and they quickly broke up the party. Sue would remember a long time later that the grad student who was the resident advisor in her dorm had looked closely at her bruised arms and warned her to be careful, saying, "This may be your first time, but it won't be the last time he hurts you." Sue listened to her advisor, but it didn't sink in, and she didn't believe it. She loved Bill, and she was anxious to make up with him. "I heard what he was saying, but I knew he couldn't be talking about Bill. He didn't know him the way I did." Bill was a young man in a hurry, and he earned his bachelor's degree at Washington State University in 3.5 years. When he did, he and Sue moved home to Bellevue. They set their wedding date for May 5th, 1979, right before Bill's 23rd birthday. Even though Bill was now an adult, Chuck Jensen had legally adopted him in February. From then on, Bill's legal name was Bill Jensen. Sue knew that his relationship with his family was nothing like her own, and her mother and sister did too, so they made sure he felt welcome in their family. If only being accepted into a warm and loving clan when one is an adult could make up for emotional abuse and deprivation in childhood, Bill Jensen might well have been a happy and successful man. Still, it's almost impossible to build self-esteem atop a shaky foundation. Bill Jensen's life during the vital years between 1 and 6, when a child is forming his own view of the world, was one of abuse and abandonment. As gruff and dominating as he appeared, he wasn't a man who felt confident inside. He hid it well. He often told Sue, "I'm a survivor." Whenever they had problems, he added, "We'll get through this." In the beginning, Sue found his survivor declarations endearing, and she always thought he said, "We'll get through this," although there were times when she wondered if he'd actually meant, "I'll get through this." Bill had already survived a lot.